2.7 Wells patch is active now. You've come here to know all the patch notes, and I'm gonna read them to you because I read them anyways. I might as well read them to you and comment them a bit, but only a bit. So let's look at the version. What's going on? You probably know that there's space fauna, habitats, all kinds of things like that. Here, the free features added. Federation votes show the voting method in the voting pop-up. Law votes also show the current law of that category, which is very helpful now. You don't have to look it up all the time again. The galactic community will occasionally send strongly worded letters to empires that are in breach of galactic law, giving them an opportunity to make all adjustments necessary with a single bureaucratic stroke. That's my dream, because I would never look up what the galactic community wanted, and sometimes I would get like diplomacy hits. 70 plus original audio assets remastered. That's of course very good. I mean, new ship designer sounds with more variations. Yay! It also sounds beautiful to design your ships now. Lots of new ambient planet reveals. And mono to stereo upgrade of legacy sounds is very nice. Technical fixes on several sound effects. Also pretty good, probably making the game run smoother. Added industrial subsidies edict, which increases consumer goods output of artisan jobs at the cost of energy upkeep. It's unlocked by global production strategy tech. Yeah, edicts were changed a lot. This is a more powerful edict with also some disadvantages, as well as the following edicts as well. It counts into the thing that you now have like a fixed number of edicts that you can do, depending on your technologies and ascension perks and everything like that. And for that, they have multiple effects added to them. They have added extended shifts edict, which increases worker and slave output at the cost of happiness. It's unlocked by the workplace motivators domination tradition. They have added the drone overdrive edict for Gestalt empires that is unlocked by the drone networks domination tradition. They've added evacuation protocols edict, which is available to doomsday origin empires. And they've implemented slave trade resolutions, which was very necessary, even though I didn't use the slave trade. I've seen people that would swear to use them, or you could even roleplay and buy slaves off it and free them, which is quite good. Which peace offer is possible must now be scripted per war goal type. That's also pretty good. Added accessibility settings for multiplayer chat. Yay for multiplayer. I'm all for it. It's the thing that keeps a game alive, like as mods in the quiet times when nothing new comes out. Added new video effects and sound effects for space storms, which can appear randomly from the mid-game onwards. Pretty curious about that. New video effects, sound effects for nebulas and for crisis systems, and also for consecrated planets. I'm all for it. It's making the game more sounding better, more beautiful in a way. Added galaxy generation option to completely disable xenocompatibility. That's done because it can lead to massive amounts of lag and to weird amounts of species where you have like over 1,000 different species. And so it's completely understandable to disable that thing. The AI doesn't bode well with it, and the processor in the late game also not so much. Added some envoy related events, good, they're less boring then. Added a new Hive Mind name list, that's also good. More love for the Hive Minds, yeah, they need that love. Added a joint operation event chain for galactic unions and research cooperatives. Nice, so, and you can see that now also another joint operation event chain for research cooperatives. So the research cooperative is the one where you can have most of the joint operation or different joint operations. And then a joint operation event chain for hegemony federations, also for trade leagues, and for a militarist federation. Military exercises, it's called. Then habitats. Habitats got a big change. They now exist in 3 tiers, and a part of that is unlocked by the Voidborn tradition. Part of the text, then habitats no longer require removing mining or research stations and can be built directly on top of them. Habitats built above nanite deposits now retain the nanite production. Habitats built above Zro, dark matter, living metal, or nanite deposits are now treated as research habitats. That also means that probably Zro, dark matter, living metal, or nanite will disappear. Added a home system each for Tianki and space amoebas. They can also spawn there. Added several events to spawn amoebas and during the game. Added the Tianki Conservation Act resolution to the galactic community and the Tianki Pest Control resolution to the galactic community. Added a Space Amoeba Protection Act galactic resolution letting all countries peacefully coexist with space amoebas or face the consequences. Added a new Tianki hatchling type and randomized Tianki fleet compositions. New Tianki fleets can now spawn from their home system. Added a new roaming space cloud. That's interesting. I mean, Star Trek. What more do I have to say? Look up the classic Star Trek and then you'll have that wandering space cloud that is pretty crazy good. Added a pirate fleet, which may also spawn in the late game. Raiding systems for basic resources. I'm looking forward to that. Added turbulent nebula systems where ship systems are impaired. That makes sense. More nebula effects. Remnant's origin is now unlocked by owning either ancient relics or federations. Does not require both. Orbital habitats now have reduced tech and construction requirements and start with 4 districts. 2 additional tiers of habitat technology have been added, which unlock planetary decisions to expand the size of your habitats. Advanced habitats can also support basic housing buildings. The Voidborn Ascension perk has been changed to give each of your advanced habitats 2 additional building slots, add the new habitat technologies as research options, and permit the construction of advanced housing buildings on advanced habitats. Void Dwellers now begin with a capital habitat upgraded to be an advanced habitat and have habitat expansion available as an engineering research option. Mining drones can now occasionally expand to nearby unclaimed systems. Very fun. I count them also as Space Fauna, so it's pretty good. And now crystals can now occasionally spawn a single ship that seeks out faraway asteroids to crash into and spawn new crystals, which is pretty cool, I think. Made it possible for edicts to be running perpetually until turned off. And then added Edict Capacity. That was what I was talking first. This, which is a soft cap on having a certain amount of edicts running. Going over it will increase your empire sprawl by 25% per edict, so it's not that soft. A number of edicts now use Edict Capacity. They are marked with a separate icon from the edicts that expire. The late game edicts usually don't use the Edict Capacity, like the Ambitions for Unity or the rare resource stuff. Praise be, a new set of resolutions have been added to the galactic community that uphold the divinity of life. It's against synthetics and robots. We expect the righteous empires of the community to support this cause. Favors can now be used to convince your Federation allies to accept your law proposal. So handy. No more blocking. Added expanded breeding program Edict that is unlocked by the Gene Crops tech. Now let's talk about balance. They will encourage planetary growth decision that has been removed from the game. It has been replaced by an edict. Food policies removed from the game. Nutritional plentitude has been changed into an edict now unlocked by the Gene Crops tech. And also with some disadvantages. Healthcare campaign, drone campaign, Hive, and drone campaign machine have been removed from the game. Inward perfection civic effect on growth speed reduced from +20 to +10%. You can see they have changed pop growth immensely. And that's also needed because pop growth is a thing of its own right now. Inward perfection civic now also increases edict cap by +1. Quite nice. AI empires are more willing to conform to galactic law. Greater than ourselves now moves pops more regularly and more often. Adopting diplomacy traditions no longer increases pop growth from immigration but unlocks the diplomatic grants edict instead. Farming subsidies edict is now unlocked by food processing tech instead of eco-simulation. The databank uplinks discovery tradition now also unlocks research subsidies edict. Adopting discovery traditions now also unlocks the map the stars edict. Gestalt crystal mining, gas extracting and mode harvesting drones are now classified as miners, like their non-Gestalt counterparts. This does not alter drones working in synthetic special resource production jobs. Increase the duration and research boost for rewards from joint operation Dismembered Cloud, Galactic Union and Research Cooperative. That's going to be interesting. Cut the size of rebel armies spawned when revolts take place by 1/3. Oh. Nerf the randiness randomness, I mean, induced by event-spawned mushroom spores so that the planet no longer turns into a pop factory. Ah, come on, I love randomness. Added some help for the AI and to not die as badly when doomsday happens. Yeah, that's good. That's really good. So you can have some flavorful AI empires too. Galactic Community Senate debate time has been reduced to 4 years, which is good. So you actually have it's actually meaningful all the time, right? Otherwise, if you wait so long, then it might never happen. The cooldown on declaring a resolution an emergency measure has been increased to 20 years. Increase the chance of getting the lesser messenger arc site. Yeah, so you can have more fun. I mean, increasing the chances is always a so-so decision, but there are many popular event chains I have not experienced, and I have a lot of playtime. You no longer need to demolish mining or research stations to build Dyson spheres or meta decompressors. They will automatically remove those upon completion, like their habitats. Wankward Artem is no longer a viable candidate for the Ecumenopolis project if you accept custodianship of its unpaved paradise. Hive Minds will now treat hive-minded pops that aren't of their species as full members of the hive, meaning that they must be given full citizenship and can no longer be enslaved or purged by other hive minds. Weak pops are now more likely to embrace pacifist ethics. That's a fun thing, I think. That's really a fun addition, and it also makes sense. Marauder successor rate state civics now have an effect, plus 15% naval cap and plus 10% ship fire rate, respectively. Space clouds are now individually far more powerful, but no longer spawn in fleets. Yeah, I mean, I think that's interesting, and it also makes sense. I mean, if you have 10 clouds at one place, it's basically one big cloud, right? Added empire modifier effects for empires that propose resolutions, depending on whether the resolution passes or fails. That's interesting, so it's encouraging participation. That's cool. Killing Tianki now yields energy and exotic gases, but upsets Xenophile empires. Yeah, that makes sense. Stability and performance changes. Fixing crash to desktop that happened during finishing the Joint Operations Special Project. Yay! A bug that we didn't know about was already fixed. Automatically create a save when receiving a hot join request. Fixed out of sync on hot join due to zombie pops. What? Significantly reduce the impact of assimilating species on the length of the yearly tick. Alright, fix the possible out of sync on hot join when a new resolution has been passed. So good, fixing out of sync. Fixed tooltip in Planet View colonization tab, not clearing between updates, just adding lines each update until it crashes to desktop. Yeah, I have been some interesting lag with the Planet View and the colonization tab. Disabled threaded polling of events on Linux during startup since it may cause crash to desktop due to race conditions in X. Saved up some code that should prevent a crash to desktop from happening when accidentally being able to open an extra downgrade pop-up. Fixed the freeze when loading a save game and encountering impossible government configurations. Fixed out of sync with species when growing half species. Fixed technology status being read incorrectly, causing out of sync. Fixed a couple of out of sync happening on hot join, plant modifiers, and pretty much all modifiers. Fixed an out of sync related to faction approval. Then, the best, user interface. My pet peeve. Clicking on a top bar resource selects it when opening the market view. Nice. That's good. Fixed some overflowing text in different languages. Good. Improvements to declare war. Vote to show enemy and potential enemies. Nice. Added a scroll bar to the advisor voices tab. Yeah, it's good. Tweaked habitat names and renamed the old orbital station core. It's, what can I say? It's good. I mean, invading the AI territories and have like 17,000 habitats named the same was getting old. Made the position between tabs in Planet View consistent so they don't move when changing tabs. Increased the height of the portrait window in the Planet View for the governor so that it does not get cut off. Yay! Switched the ship size icons for gardening drones and various drakes for more appropriate ones. yeah, make it more appropriate. Improve the ethics tooltips in faction screen. Display modifiers to naval capacity are now grouped so that we don't get 200 anchorages with +4. Improved AI acceptance tooltips when attempting to change a Federation law. Yes. More appropriate event picks used for feral overload. And edicts have more clearly disabled checkboxes when you cannot interact with them. Also added a tooltip for clarity. Oh, AI. It's so important. AI. AI will always now use the best available template when modifying a species to avoid creating hundreds of species with just a few pops each. Yo, I'm so thankful. If that really fixes this, I'm so thankful. Like you would invade an AI and you would get 250 pops and you would have 100 different species. It would be that way. Hopefully no longer. AI takes edict cap into consideration. The AI now takes the edict cap into consideration when deciding which edicts to enact. The AI will always try to be at the edict cap, prioritizing removing exceeding edicts over adding new ones. Cool. Updated AI economy plans to support sub-plans also made it so that if the AI finishes a plan early, it can take a plan ahead of time. Cool. Ensure military AI doesn't try to merge Federation fleets with regular ones. Good. Improved AI weightings for various Gestalt resource-producing jobs to factor species traits into the weightings. And AI has more granularity while considering Federation laws. Cool. Make it more alive. Align AI evaluation code between ask to join and invite to Federation, hopefully fixing the issue where AI nation continuously asks to join a Federation. Then fixed economy AI computation of admin cap and subplans in general. Very nice. Improve AI economic plan logging. And the military AI should issue orders to orbit in the current system when waiting for others to regroup. Let's take a deep breath now. We come to modding. And after that to the bug fixes, to chill out. Bug fixes are always the best. I love these bug fixes. That's the craziest stuff in there. Modding. Abandoned terraforming equipment is now less likely to break in hilarious ways when people mod in new planet classes. It happened to me. Made auto-open an attribute on the message type to control if a message is going to remain an alert or show a pop-up on creation. Added flag regenerates when disabled to ship design. It is set to true by default. Cool. Added every random count envoy scope. So the envoy is getting things. Cool. Added trigger has envoy task, harm relations, improve relations, galactic community federation, optional country. Yeah, adding the invoice is easier. That's cool. Added more debug information, AI weights and scopes for event options. Ah, nice. So much modability. Added localization command get government name. Added is leader age trigger. Added any pop faction scope change. Added has envoy cooldown yes no. Added envoy location country scope change for the country where an envoy is improving harming relations at. Added fleet trigger can access system. You can now use triggered option names. Name is triggers text localization rather than just name is localization. Made the tooltip for add deposit effect show the full information for what the deposit does when used on a colonizable planet. Added system scope trigger has system trait value greater or equal to 25. Added effect country list tooltip limits triggers yes, which will print a list of the countries that fulfill those conditions and similar lists for owned planets, pop factions and leaders fleets. Added has completed special project, has failed special project triggers for when you have several projects in an ongoing event chain. Added complete special project effect, added country modifier to deposits, added on colony 5-year pulse on action, files for each planet every 5 years, counting up from colonization date. Unassigned leader will now work on invoice 2. Added set cooldown effect to lock a leader in its current position for a specified number of days. Allowed script to set a title for event diplo windows not tied to a country, diplomatic title. Orbital station scope now exists, scoping any station in orbit of a planet. Added has current purge trigger, checking if any pop on the scoped planet is being purged. Added random vary any count rival country and Federation ally scopes. Also count playable country. Added sector capital scope change usable from sector scope. Turned observation outpost owner into a proper scope, so exists is observation outpost owner will now work. Renamed every pop to every galaxy pop so as to make clear what it does and avoid disastrous misunderstandings. Yeah, these misunderstandings. I don't know much about modding. Improve the tooltip for various count X triggers. Added trigger is sector capital and effect set sector capital. Added trigger has sector focus and effect set sector focus. Added effect set colony type to set the colony designation. Improved intermod compatibility with planet classes and districts. Added districts set tag in planet classes and uses districts set trigger to check that. Note mods adding habitable planet classes will need to add this tag to their planets. Added num housing trigger. Added planetary resource compare trigger to check the production upkeep balance of a specified resource on a planet. Added yes and no to the has government trigger to expand its usefulness and detect countries without government. Added triggers is forced friendly and is forced neutral to check if the country has been forced to be neutral or friendly to another via set faction hostility. Is hostile already covers if they are set to hostile. Added effects to start and end truces. Starting can be done with either a country or a war as target. Every owned ship now works in both country and fleet scope, referring to every ship in the fleet in the latter. Also added count owned ship, making count fleet ships and count owned ships obsolete. Has modifier trigger now works in megastructure scope. Log in triggers now works in all scopes, not just in a select few. AI wait for Federation laws is now used properly to build a value instead of just compare to a threshold. The tooltip in brackets effect now works in every scope. Made, set, check, etc. variable work in many more scopes than they used to. Calc true if now accepts all logical parameters instead of simply assuming greater equal. Assign leader can now be used to assign governors to sectors. Added forced add civic and forced remove civic effects. Fixed effect create research stations so it now does what it's meant to. Yay! Erosion explosion exposed. In titles now have erosion in and erosion out values set in shaders that are tied to creation and destruction of the entity. Look at the new system effects for reference. Added command line arguments, MG seed and MG position to force a specific seed position when starting or loading a game. Added slot restriction attribute to ship component templates for preventing components to be used for a certain slot template. And now we come to the bug fixes. Gods of space, give me strength for the bug fixes. Ooh, so many bug fixes. I love that. I love that they fix bugs all the time. Fixed minor problem with options being grayed out in the Golden Rule Federation Challenge. Then events about interdimensional trade increasing or decreasing now have a tooltip describing their effects. Yes! Added a location to the Drums of War event so that you don't need to search for the Great Khan. Finally! Finally! Enclave and Marauder species now have habitability preferences. Cool. Random effects should display correctly in tooltip even if scope changes are hidden. Fixed from scope in on cancel in special projects. Unrelated ambient objects are no longer nuked when restoring a ruined mega shipyard. Okay. Fix if more than one planet is missing at the beginning on the Shoulders of Giants origin. Ah, yeah, that's great. Fix issues with the formation of the non-aligned league where countries that were rivals of or at war with existing members would be added, leading to various bugs. The non-aligned league is now defensive rather than an aggressor party in the War in Heaven, which makes absolutely sense. Updated the description of the trade league benefit. Fixed so juggernauts can now be followed properly. Rudimentary robots are now spawned only when the planet finishes colonization, solving a number of UI and gameplay issues caused by having pops on the planet during the colonization process. Yeah, logical solution. Fix the case where attacking certain neutral fleets, for example Tiyanki, could cause them to not turn hostile to you. Yeah, that makes sense. There's a lot of things that with that. Also, the troop transporters. Tooltip for the breach icon in Galactic Community now includes info on which resolutions the country is in breach of and which modifiers are being applied to it. So good. Added better information for Federation votes. Fixed an issue where if multiple countries started with a cyan origin with 0 preset Fallen Empires in multiplayer, one country might end up lacking a Fallen Empire overlord. That's good. Fixed the bug where envoys could become faction leaders. Fixed the bug where changing planet owner, for example through revolts, didn't release slaves on the market. When voting in the Galactic Community, favors no longer apply if you're both voting for the same side. Also, you can no longer call in favors from empires voting for the same side. Kicking an empire from a federation now triggers a truce. Fixed a minor location error in a primitive observation event. Prosperous unification will now give exactly 4 extra start pops in exactly every case, which is good. Being lithoid is now a reason to want to serve in soldier jobs. They can serve as soldiers. Nice. There's now a Void Dweller version of the Soul system that can be manually picked by the player on the creation screen. Yay! Fixed context switch tooltip creation erroneously reporting invalid switches. The results of the Psychic Federation election are now announced after 60 days rather than 10 days, giving you time to react in multiplayer. You'll no longer get rewarded for defeating the Brethren if you merely crush the Vanguard but the main force is yet to arrive. Slaves of xenophobic fallen empires will no longer start without a planetary habitability trait. Good. Fallen empire fleets now have admirals. Oh, finally. Makes so much sense. Galactic focuses relating to the war in heaven will now all only last for as long as the war in heaven lasts. Oh yeah, please. Fixed various irregularities that could happen if you started the Zroni precursor chain later in the game. The arc sites are now spawned closer in systems that you are more likely to have able to access, and definitely not next to a fallen empire. Yeah, always these quest things like, yeah, there's that location. It's far away in a fallen empire. Congratulations. In the time loop event, the research station is now removed when the planet loses its deposit. The Memorex now appears on your capital, not on your homeworld, which might have been destroyed in the meantime, by the Doomsday Origin, for example. Sentinels events now check if you have resources before giving you the option to spend them. Cool. Fixed a bug where playing Shoulders of Giants in multiplayer with multiple people picking the origin would lead to you getting the arc sites multiple times. The event Eat or Be Eaten now establishes communication with an empire with all the normal messages and content being triggered. The slaves of the xenophobe fallen empire can no longer be robots with biological traits. Aha, yeah. Factions now need at least 5 pops to have their ethos before they can be spawned. Imperialist faction loyalty boost Leviathan Slayer will no longer disappear if all Leviathans are dead. For example, people won't suddenly have collective amnesia about the terrible horrors they've just freed the galaxy from. Orions of a country's founder species should now be allowed to have different rights. The title of various diplomatic events is no longer question mark. Fixed an error with the gateway construction tech weight that made it almost always appear as soon as all its prerequisites were met. Yeah. I mean, AI empires in my game are going hog wild with gateway construction. Really, gateways are good, but there's a limit. The relic activation alert is no longer shown when you can't afford to activate a relic. Way! But it should sound one day. I found it pretty practical. Ships start in orbit around the starbase for real this time. The galactic focus to resolve the war in heaven is now resolved if one of the combatants defeats the other. Finally. Envoy events 16 will no longer improve relations with unlikely suspects such as the Caravansary Coalition. Fix the bug when the policy in breach alert hasn't been updated in UI properly. The claim casus belli for conquest was now will now mention that you have X claims on the enemy and their allies to reduce the confusion in the case where you have claimed one of the defenders, but none the one you are actually attempting to declare the war on. You must declare the conquest war on a target which you have claims on. Sounds complicated, is just good. Fixed so that the Space Storm negative modifier went away once the event was over. Cool, you can no longer select Void Dweller Soul without the Voidborn origin. Yeah, that's good. Change default auto open on Diplo messages to be minimized for player ones and pop up for others, third-party messages. Don't show lasts until for edicts that have no end date. Use correct tooltip for edit checkbox when active. Divinity of Life resolutions no longer incorrectly trigger breach events from the Rules of War line. Then the Decino systems are now set to correctly collect resources from space. Nice. Also, their planet's population is up to 30 from 8. Presumably 8 was the pre-Megacorp figure, and now have buildings on them. Ah. It's now possible to remove that last shipyard from star bases. Nice. Broad the way Pop's ethics changes, chances are displayed, and the way they are calculated and when chosen in sync. Nice, so it is actually useful. Ensure modifiers were properly calculated before calculating ethics attraction when creating original Pops in Empires. Nice. Planet modifier safely checked alien factory now adds 15% to local building costs rather than 25% to local edicts cost. Local edicts no longer exist too. Proposing a resolution now requires you to confirm the selection in a pop-up, which is good. The planet modifier Shroud Deviance now has a proper modifier icon rather than a placeholder. The enigmatic fortress will no longer spawn on choke points. Aww, that was so funny. Fix Empire without a name and civics created due to revolt. Nice. Fix Pricky T, Nomads, machine uprisings, and awoken robots sometimes not establishing communications. Yeah, that helps. Space storms and other modifiers on systems are listed as environmental effects when inside the system. But you might not know. Fixed an error in which the BMUT thalassocracy species adjective was not properly assigned during setup and so would not appear in some options texts. Then the enigmatic fortress doesn't regen once it's been disabled anymore. The enigmatic fortress is a full, or has been a full bag of bugs. I can tell you that from my last encounter with it. It's crazy, so it's good that they're tackling it. Adding some invasion weight to non-edible pops for swarm AI, so it just does not ignore planets with just robots. Fixed missing localization for Class T brown dwarf stars. Fixed numerous incorrect script tags where names would fall to show in Pirate 155. Communicate from the BMUT thalassocracy. Also fixed the event location. The menu ambient sound cuts at the right time on the loading screen. The pool of candidates for oligarchic election is selected correctly. I'm happy for that, and I'm happy you stayed with me all the time. It's so lonely in these patch notes. Otherwise, if I don't want to be so lonely, then just subscribe. Have a great time. And until next time, happy gaming to you. This is Immanuel signing out.